the scientist who co-discovered the DNA says our genes were brought here by aliens. Francis Crick, June 8, 1918 to 20th of July 2004, was an English scientist who was most noted for being a co-discoverer of the structure of the DNA molecule in 1953, alongside James D. Watson. Francis Crick Watson and Maurice Wilkins were jointly awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize for Physiology for Medicine for their discoveries concerning the molecular structure of nucleic acids and its significance for information transfer in living material. He was clearly a brilliant scientist who, unfortunately, like many other brilliant minds who came up with theories that challenged the accepted frameworks at the time, was not given much press. In his book published in 1982, titled Life Itself, he argues that there is no possible way that the DNA molecule could have gotten its start here on Earth, and that it had to have come here from somewhere else. Within the mainstream scientific community, the generally accepted theory is that we are the result of a bunch of molecules accidentally bumping into each other and creating life. However, according to Francis, we are the result of what is known as directed panspermia. Crick and the British chemist Leslie Orgel published their paper on it in July of 1973. Their theory explains that organisms were deliberately transmitted to Earth by intelligent beings on another planet. Quote, "We conclude that it is possible that life reached the Earth in this way, but that the scientific evidence is inadequate at the present time to say anything about the probability. We draw attention to the kinds of evidence that might throw additional light on this topic," end quote. As far as Crick's thoughts on the theory that we are the result of accidentally bumping into each other, he thinks this was as likely as the assembly of a jumbo jet hit by a hurricane in a junkyard. In other words, he thought the theory held little to no credibility. And when it comes to Crick's theory, there have been some who expanded upon his work and have actually found evidence of it. Perhaps Crick had some evidence, or he was able to connect some dots. After all, theories like this aren't just born out of nowhere, and this gentleman won the Nobel Prize for the study of DNA. Thoughts like this should not be taken lightly, and evidence should be examined to see if it's plausible hypothesis. So please keep in mind while reading the article that although we've discussed much, we have yet to identify the biological functions of large portions of our DNA. There is so much mystery wrapped in what could possibly hold the answer to life itself and the origins of the human race. A few years ago, Chandra Wickrama Singh, the director of the Buckingham Centre for Astrobiology at the University of Buckingham in the UK, published a paper regarding their supposed findings of the first ever evidence of extraterrestrial life found in a celestial body. At the time, Wickrama Singh pointed out to Huffington Post how, in 1962, quote, "Hoyle and I pioneered the theory of carbon grains in space to replace the old ice grain theory. This was vehemently resisted by the astronomical community at the outset. But with the dawn of infrared spectroscopy, the ice grain theory gave way to the carbon dust theory. And over a few years, after a great deal of model fitting, we came to the conclusion that material similar to the biomaterial fitted at the available data in astronomy, we considered the possibility that microbiology had a universal character, and no observations in astronomy or new information from biology has provided contrary evidence. If only ideas that are considered orthodox are given support through award of grants or publication opportunities, it's certain that the progress of science will be stifled as it was throughout the Middle Ages," end quote. English astronomers Sir Fred Hoyle and Wickrama Singh are considered co-developers of the panspermia theory. In another paper that Wickrama Singh and co-authored in 2012 titled Non-Terrestrial Origin of Life, a transformative research paradigm shift, he points out that for nearly 5 decades, evidence in favor of a non-terrestrial origin of life in panspermia has accumulated which has not been properly assessed. A point has now been reached that demands serious attention of biologists to possibly transformative paradigm shift of the question of the origin of life with profound implications across many disciplines, end quote. It's interesting to think about this, isn't it? We are indeed, as author Graham Hancock noted, a species with amnesia. We still don't completely know where we came from and how we got here. There is a serious possibility that we're being visited, and have been visited for many years, by people from outer space and from other civilizations, and that it behooves us, in case some of these people in the future or now should turn hostile, to find out who they are, where they come from, and what they want. This should be the subject of rigorous scientific investigation and not the subject of rubbish by tabloid newspapers. The quote above comes from Lord Admiral Hill Norton, the former Chief of Defense Staff and 5-star Admiral of the Royal Navy. That's the highest possible rank of the British Royal Navy, similar to General Dwight D. Eisenhower, 5-star rank in the United States. He was also chairman of the NATO Military Committee. These are definitely positions to be in the know about what is going on, at least to some extent. If you are unaware, there have been hundreds of witnesses carrying impressive backgrounds that have been in the position to know about these things. To complement this testimony, we've also evidence in the form of documents from several different governments, military intelligence agencies, and given this evidence, the possibility that this is happening is very real. And if you'd like to read more about the topic, you can start off by visiting some kind of exopolitics section. There you'll find recent articles on subjects dating back to the very first. And personally, it says here, I think all of the evidence that surfaced within the past few years alone, it's mind-altering if you're interested, and you'll have to do your own research. If you don't, next time somebody brings up the subject, it's good to keep in mind an open mind and at least acknowledge that, yes, this is actually a strong possibility. I'll leave you with this last clip from Thrive documentary. Dr. Brian O'Leary, former NASA astronaut, one of many astronauts who has spoken out enthusiastically about this subject and the evidence behind it, and he claims that for a long time, extraterrestrials have been visiting Earth. This is by Humans Are Free, Alexander Light, and is by Arjun Walia. If you'd like to join me on my Patreon account, you will hear content not covered by mainstream media. These riveting stories will be based on my research, and I will state my opinions and give my personal insight on diverse and controversial subjects and world events not covered by mainstream media, and not supported by YouTube guidelines. So whatever I have on my Patreon, most of those will not be on my YouTube channel. Please consider becoming a member today. More of the most significant and important videos will be on my Patreon channel. Your support helps me to continue my research and keeps this YouTube channel alive. And we depend on your support, your generous charity, because we help economically challenged families here in Athens, Greece, in Kapota, and we also help the young generation with university tuition and the community around our church. Thank you.